Yo, what's up, internets? Today, I really want to get into the idea of the 5 things you really need to know before stepping into the street art, the mural realm, adding art to public spaces. Street art murals are a whole nother ball game that come with certain different rules and different procedures that you sometimes will run into if you don't know them and sort of get sometimes frustrated. If you have an idea of sometimes these 5 things that you have to look out for, you're going to be better prepared when sort of handling those things. Before we do that, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you're notified whenever I do videos. So let's get into it. So one of the first things to really know about getting into street art and murals is that it is very laborsome. It is very taxing on the body. Being on a ladder for 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 hours a day is very difficult. There's a lot of sort of chronic back issues that I have, a lot of sort of issues when it comes to my feet, a lot of issues when it comes to just like staying in the sun that people will sort of encounter. It is very taxing on the body to actually move, paint all the time or ladders all the time. There's certain injuries that you can get. Sometimes it's 100 degrees and you got to stay hydrated, and you got to worry about making sure that you have food and drinks around you so that you don't pass out. You have to think about the spray paint that you're using, making sure that you have the right respiratory sort of mask on, because if you do that all the time, you're going to have lung issues. You're going to have to sort of make sure that you're able to sort of withstand a lot of the wear and tear on your body. But a lot of these things can be addressed when it comes to wearing the right shoes, wearing the right clothing, wearing the right sort of respiratory sort of mask, so you're not breathing in fumes, making sure you pace yourself, having a schedule, making sure you plan out your mural correctly, doing all these different things to help you make sure that you're not sort of tearing down your body. I carry a lot of paint around. I started actually buying luggage cases and for traveling and everything, and putting my paint into that to sort of lug around rather than having to physically hold a lot of my paint and just take it from one place to the next. Now I'm getting a little bit smarter about how I transport a lot of my heavy sort of paints and equipments and sort of lugging around all these different supplies. So labor is a big thing that you really have to think about. The second thing you really have to think about is it takes a lot of time, money, and resources to actually get into the street art game and to access it and to actually do a lot of work. There's a lot of time that is required for you to dedicate to painting a mural. Sometimes I'm outside from early in the morning to late at night, from day to day to day, sometimes even over a course of a week. So you have to think about the time you have to sort of allocate to doing a mural. So I do it this is my full-time gig, so it's a lot easier for me. But someone who has a side gig or a full-time job wanting to do a mural, you have to think about the time that is involved whenever you're sort of getting into the space. Also the money. How much do I want to invest in creating a mural? A lot of the paints that I buy, I have some left over, but I sort of have to overbuy to make sure I have enough paint. I have to make sure I have enough supplies, or overbuy supplies, just making sure that I'm able to sort of mask everything off and cover everything. So I'm spending money on spending money on spending money. Even when I'm doing a really large mural, I'll have like a large piece of equipment. All those things definitely cost money to actually do. And it's great when you can get a budget, but when you don't have a budget to really work with, it just takes a lot of actual money to support this sort of lifestyle, habit, art form. I like to say it's a lifestyle for me because I just love doing it. It's something that I would do like someone collects sneakers. So this is something that I spend money on all the time, and it just takes a lot of resources as well. So it takes a lot of your resources in terms of just driving to a place and accessing your energy and just accessing your supplies and your sort of personal sort of items to actually put some things together. So it takes a lot of time, money, and energy to get into the space. It's not like you can just get into the space and not have to invest anything in it. it's like you have to really invest in, like I said before, wearing the right shoes or getting the right clothing to do a mural, because you want to protect yourself from the labor or the weather when you're outside. So it takes a lot of that when you're getting into the space. It's not like you're in your studio in the comfort of your surroundings, being able to do what you want to. The next thing that a lot of artists really have to think about is compromise. Artwork in the public eye and what you want to do have to be at that intersection, because if it's only artwork that you like, the community will not jive with it. And if it's only artwork that the community likes and you're painting it, you will resent what you're doing and you won't like the outcome of it. It won't be your best work. So you have to figure out, what is that compromise to where you're doing the work that you like to do and what the community likes and will respect, because that is where you sort of get into what is sort of great public art or a great mural, because it speaks to the community. The community is a part of it because they have to live with that work. They're going to drive by it when they go to work and come back from work, get lunch, come back from lunch, walk their dog, jog, hang out with friends, have a picnic. They're going to see that public art all the time. So they have to jive with it. So really, when you're in this space, you have to figure out ways where you can actually compromise and do work that the community loves, but you love as well. The fourth thing that I think a lot of artists need to really think about when getting into the space is all about maintenance. A lot of times especially artists, are short term. We just want to get the work done and sort of move on to that next project, especially when it's street art. But we have to think about the maintenance of the work, because when you're doing a lot of street art, it's in the public eye. It is sort of out there for people to interact with. It is, a conversation with the community. And if the community doesn't like it, sometimes your work can get affected by the community. So you really have to think about the maintenance of the work long term, because if you're wanting your work or your mural to last for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years, you really have to think about if something happens, I have to actually go back and fix it. So what paint did I use for this space right here, or what paint did I use for this color right here? You have to think about if your work gets dissed, if someone tags on top of it, how will you fix it? Because you don't want that stuff writing for a long time on a wall, because that just attracts more tags. So you have to think about the maintenance of the work when you're getting into street art, and understand that it is street art. It is still the streets. The streets are hungry. It came from graffiti. It is something that will happen to you. It happens to everyone, no matter who you are. So don't get offended. Don't get mad. It's something that happens all the time. It's just fix it, or move on to the next one, or repaint something else on that wall and figure out how to protect it. But you always have to think about the maintenance of that work. And thinking about the maintenance of the work, sometimes when you have a ton of murals, you have to think about how to maintain all those different murals. How do you protect 20 different murals in a city if you have all those murals? How do you protect the mural when you have one in another state or another city or another country and something happens to it? So you really have to figure out what do you do to sort of solve that maintenance piece when you're getting into street art and street murals, things like this. So that is something that you really sometimes have to think about. It's not as much for indoor murals. So when you're doing work indoors, it's not always open to the public, but sometimes it can get damaged. Someone scrapes up against it. If it's a co-working space, you have chairs, book bags, all these different things sort of scraping up against your mural. And how do you protect those interior murals? How do you protect murals for long term from weather? Making sure you have quality paint. So making sure you have an idea of how to do that is something that you really need to think about as you're sort of getting into it, as you're sort of buying supplies, as you're sort of walking away from a mural. What do you do if something happens to it? Number 5, something that every artist needs to think about when getting into the space is the idea that everything we do in the street, every sort of art installation that we do in the public eye is very temporary. And what I mean by that is that nothing will last forever. Communities will change. Natural disasters will happen. You know, buildings will get torn down and redeveloped. Land will sort of disappear into something different. Everything that we do, we have to sometimes think of it as temporary. And when we do that, we're able to realize how our artwork relates to the community, that it's sort of a conversation for that point in time. It's not something for us to sort of, moan and groan about that it's not lasting forever in this space. We're not doing a small canvas in our studio and able to have a collector buy it or a museum buy it and sort of, put it in their museum and sort of take care of it for centuries on centuries on centuries. It's in the public eye, it's in the street, it's on a building, and buildings change. Building, like I said, gets torn down and things change over time. So it can last a year, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, maybe even 100 years, but eventually a lot of these things will go away. So having the idea of how to let go of a lot of our work and sort of have it for that sort of time, sometimes is a little bit more enjoyable because we see it as more intimate. You had to be here to really enjoy it. That's how I look at it. You have to be in that space. You have to be in this area of the country, the state, the city, the neighborhood to enjoy this piece of work. So everything is temporary when it comes to street art and murals. So that's something, like I said, that we really have to sort of come to grips with, because we are not able to, dictate, what happens to a building. As things get older, our murals will get older, they will fade, or, they will get sort of replaced with something else, or the building will get torn down. So that is something to really think about, not getting bent out of shape or angry, that your mural isn't lasting, forever. Nothing lasts forever when it comes to a lot of the public art or the street art and the murals in that space. That is basically the 5 different things that I really, really want artists getting into the street art realm, the mural realm, to really think about before, diving into it, so that you're understanding some of the different issues that are involved with, this space, with street art, with public art, with murals, and understanding, you can sometimes work around some of these things, but sometimes these things, you can't avoid. You can't avoid, spending a lot of labor on a mural. You can't avoid, having a mural sometimes tag, or having a mural sometimes just, disappear as it, you age or it gets older. So things I really, really want you to think about, like I said, before you're sort of getting into the space, so that before you encounter it. So hopefully this video helped out. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you hit that bell notification so that you're notified whenever I do videos. And make sure you check out the rest of this mural video series, because I want to help artists out when trying to get into the mural space game, because we need more diversity. We need more voices creating public art, because like I said, the public art is basically having art have a conversation with the public and the community, and that's what it's all about. So we need more spaces and a variety of artists to do that. So hopefully, like I said, this helped out. Check out the other videos. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I will see you next time. Peace.